Reflection, Chapter 25. She flailed, her fingers slipping through Shang's. He couldn't grab her. He was a spirit, little more than a shadow. A powerful rush of water surged behind her back. The river was ready to take her. He might not be able to touch her, but the Lady of Forgetfulness had said he could touch anything that belonged in Daiyu, like her sword. "Grab my sword!" Mulan shouted. Just in time, Mulan reached for the blade hanging in her side. "I've got you," he said, teeth clenched and jaw tight. Still clasping the sword, he hauled her up until her arms folded over the cauldron's rocky shoulder. Mulan rolled onto the dome, pressed her hand against the edge of the cliff, and looked down. At the very bottom of the waterfall, trapped within the river's black waters, was Hu Guai. Smoke cascaded over the demon's face as he struggled against the crashing waves. Then he was gone, washed away. She let out a sigh of relief. That was close. "Of all the foolish things to do," said Shang, shaking his head, "you nearly got yourself killed." Mulan grinned. "Couldn't let Hu Guai throw you into the bottom of Daiyu." "Well, it worked. You defeated him." "We both did." She inhaled a slower heartbeat. Her grin softened to a smile. "And you flew just now." I don't know how I did it," Shang stammered. "I was worried about you. When I saw you about to fall to the river, I just jumped." "You could have fallen into the river yourself." "It was worth the risk. You're important." Shang flinched, realizing he said something he hadn't meant to. He cleared his throat, shuffling his feet uncomfortably. "I mean, you're one of my soldiers. You would do the same for me. Just now. Thank you." "You're welcome." Mulan couldn't help it. Her smile widened at how uncomfortable Shang looked. Something about the way he'd said she was important melted her inside. "Are you all right?" he asked. "My pride is battered," Shishi answered for her. The lion huffed, untangling his burnt mane with displeasure. "But I'm intact." Shang returned her sword to her. "You're hurt," he said, gesturing at Mulan's bruises. "Worry about me later," she said, gathering her breath. "Look." She pointed at the sky. Now that Hu Guai had been defeated, the world around them brightened. The streaks of crimson behind the clouds faded, and the sky turned blue as the clearest summer day. Even the smoke cleared, and the hissing from the craters and chimney rocks became silent. At last, there was no fire demon guarding the pillar. The moon shone on its dark stones and slanted light hitting upon a metal placard posted at the base of the tower. Mulan and her friends approached it wearily. "To Yudu," Shang read, "the city of the dead." He paused. "Is that where the ghosts live, before they ascend into heaven?" "Most of them," Shishi replied. "Most?" "The citizens of Yudu are mostly there because they don't deserve the torture chambers of Daiyu, but also don't deserve heaven quite yet." "But some ghosts never make it to Yudu." "The very good ones," Shang replied, "and the very bad ones." Shang said nothing, but his brow was tense, deep in contemplation. He must be worried we won't make it, Mulan thought. We wasted too much time fighting Hu Guai. She jumped to her feet, ignoring the pain bubbling in her side and arm. "Come on," she said. "You can't both be that eager to stay on this level." "It'd be faster if you weren't in my way," she said, harumphing as he navigated the narrow steps. "Need I remind you, I have 4 legs compared to your 2? He tailed her, bounding up the 3 steps at a time. She pressed a hand against the pillar's wall, using it to steady herself as she climbed the spiraling steps. She wiped her dusty fingers on her pants and glanced back at Shang. The captain followed, easily keeping up, but unlike Shishi, who huffed and grumbled all the way up, Shang was quiet. Often he looked up at the blackening moon. Mulan followed his gaze to the sky. Something glimmered just above the pillar, catching the fading light of the moon and reflected it into the sky. At first she thought it might be a star, but Daiyu has no stars. Could it be a mirror? She wondered. She'd seen something like that in the Bridge of Helplessness, but she hadn't thought much of it then. She didn't think much of it now. After all, what could a mirror possibly have to do with their journey to the gates of Daiyu?